Hi everybody. How are we doing? Day 3 for me here. I'm committing to doing this for 30 days. Yesterday's video went a little bit longer than I was hoping to, and I'm going to try to keep these a bit shorter because I won't get much engagement on almost a half an hour video. So I'm going to try to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes, but it will be a challenge because these topics are pretty difficult to wrap your head around in the first place, and getting it down to a short video will be challenging. But if I have to, I'll break it up into several videos and spread it out. So we're back down at our camper here in eastern Nova Scotia on the coast, and we had a great day. My daughter had a birthday party, and my son's down camping, my oldest boy, with his girlfriend and their dog, and they're playing with our dogs, and it's just been a pretty good day. Had a swim in the ocean and just finished a short little meditation, so I feel a bit better, more stable. And it actually triggered an idea for me because I could feel my mind racing. And when I say that, I understand the dichotomy here. Like, my mind was racing. The monkey mind, as I refer to it as, was racing. So it had all kinds of ideas it wanted to put out there, and it had things like you have to do a good job on this video, and you have to do all this stuff, and it's all nonsense, of course, but you can't see that when you're in it. So when I just had that little mini meditation, I quieted them down pretty good, and we're going to start the video here, and then I'll explain that a little bit more, I think. So where am I now? I think the most important thing that happened to me, well, not I think, it definitely was the awakening that I had for 3 days, where I describe it as being in full Christ consciousness, as in Buddha consciousness, complete awakening, enlightened human being for 3 days. So I had interactions, I went out into the world, and it was the most profound thing that's ever happened to me, and ever will again, I'm guessing. And it's still a little bit raw, to be honest. The way it happened for me is so weird, and I've had trouble finding anyone else who can even describe it this way, that I find it hard to talk about, because I want to get back there so bad. I want to be that person all the time. And once you experience it, you can't think of anything else. It's so much more peaceful and so much better than the way we live now, with a completely silenced ego. So I'm going to give it a bit of time, but I'll get there. I'll be able to talk about this openly. But, like, for example, I've met 2 people, a wonderful woman who's been helping me, and another man who had something similar, but I don't know for sure, because both of those people are still finding it hard to talk about it themselves. So I'm a pretty open guy, and I think I would be willing to talk about anything. It's just most other people are kind of gun shy, I guess. They're like, it's hard to talk about. So I understand completely from their perspective, and it's just still extremely strange. And to have that for that period of time and then to have it taken away from you is, well, it was heartbreaking, to be honest. So that being said, I want to do this justice, and the best way I can describe it is I had a Kundalini awakening, which not exactly, and then I was completely awake, surrounded by people who weren't. So I was walking around in the world what would be called Kundalini psychosis, but in my opinion, I was the only person who was sane. And everybody else was crazy because they're all completely in their ego and they didn't see it, and I could. And that led to I came out of that, like I said. I had it for 3 days. Then I woke up one day and I was back into it. And then I had what I would call a spirit or soul boot camp, where I was compelled to do certain things. I was shown what I think, through my higher self or God, the understanding of what this play that we're in is in various ways. So it became extremely obvious immediately to me that this isn't real. This is not real in the real sense of things. The only thing that is real is the consciousness and the soul behind these eyes, right? We all have that, and then it gets really complicated. But I'll cover this stuff as we go. But for now, I'm going to leave that alone. And then I'm going to move on to, a little bit of the story of understanding the ego. And a lot of people still have no clue. And if you don't, you're not gonna, these videos aren't going to appeal to you. I'm going to appear crazy. You're not going to buy any of this, and that's fine. I get it. But back in 2016, when I was still working in the oil field in Western Canada, I was in like a oil sands site. So we had these barracks basically in a gym, and it was relatively comfortable situation. And then you drive to work every day, but you were away from home, and it wasn't great, but it was a decent gig. We made good money and all that stuff. So Amanda, my beautiful wife, had been trying to get me to read Eckhart Tolle for years, and I was not having it. I would poo-poo it every day. I made fun of her. I did all the stuff that a completely asleep person would do. And frankly, I was an atheist at the time. I was a material reductionist atheist. I did not believe there was any purpose to any of this. There was no God. There was nothing. And so I had my first mini awakening. It was in the middle of northern Canada in the bush. And it happened from a YouTube video, unsurprisingly. So I was gonna read the book. I had the book with me. I decided I had to figure this out. I had to decide whether or not there was something more to this life, or if it was just a waste of time. And what are we doing here? And I had the book with me. I hadn't read it. And I remember watching a video of Eckhart's, and he came out on the stage. It was a older video. He was much younger. And he came out on the stage, and he just sat there with a silly grin on his face, and he stared out at the crowd for what felt like eternity. And he was scanning back and forth, and he was checking the crowd and smiling, and I was like, what is going on? This guy's crazy. I'm gonna click off this video. This is a waste of time. And I didn't. And I kept waiting and waiting for him to say something. And and as soon as he opened his mouth, he said, how many of you were growing impatient? How many of you got almost angry or wanted to leave? And it triggered something in me. I was like, what? Because he's reading my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. So he must understand something that I don't. And that led to me reading the book, and that led to me having an understanding. That's the first time I got a glimpse of the ego and the us. So consciousness and the egoic mind, as he calls it. I call it the monkey mind. That's my favorite term to describe it. It's because it's the part of the human body that evolved on this planet that runs the operating system for this, to survive on this planet. That's the way I look at it. And our consciousness comes from higher dimensions. Heaven, call it what you want, 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th dimension. It doesn't really matter. It's projected down into us. And we're in a battle for control of this vehicle that we're trying to be the driver of this vehicle that we're sitting in. So I got a glimpse of it because I know a lot of people that are spiritual will have seen this part and they'll understand this, and that's okay. I felt like I should explain it myself. So I had my first mini awakening, and I felt really good for about 6 months. I was understanding that everybody else was in the same state, and that I wasn't taking things less personal, and I was understanding why they were acting a certain way. But I didn't understand is that this is a play. This is a game. You're here to learn something, and it's an intricate, very intricate illusion designed for the universe to understand itself. And we do this through projecting down into these bodies and having these experiences on this planet. But in my opinion, and this is the same opinion that most Eastern religions have, is that we do it to ourselves. So we are eternal. We write these stories beforehand. It becomes this big intricate dance and play, and we come down here and experience them. And then there's karma. So Ram Dass has another really good analogy, and it's the monkey analogy that I liked. And he talked about how in India they'll take a jar with a hole in the side, and they'll put a nut in it, and they'll leave the hole just small enough that the monkey can get his hand in, grab the nut, but he can't get his hand out with the nut in his hand. And it's a good analogy because it's a monkey. So if it's exactly the same thing, and the monkey doesn't have, well, I'm not sure if he has consciousness, but it's certainly much lower, and his sentience is much lower. So he's not able to understand the dichotomy between the conscious brain and the monkey mind. So he's completely run by the monkey mind, and it leads to attachment. Why won't this monkey let go of this nut? He's attached to the outcome. He already has the nut. He can see that he should have it, and his brain can't comprehend why he can't have it. So the theory, the analogy was written or described because it means that attachment is the problem. Attached to outcomes. We're supposed to be here going with the flow, and we're supposed to be in control of these vehicles, these bodies, these avatars that we're inhabiting. But most of us are asleep, and we can't see the difference. We can't take control of the vehicle. So we're completely run by the monkey mind. So and the opposite would be true if you were able to detach from the outcome. Let go of that damn nut and book it out of there. But attachment leads to suffering. Detachment leads to freedom and flow. So there's another gentleman that I like to follow. His name's R.J. Spina, and his analogy is slightly different. And he says that the human body is a vehicle, like an actual car. And there's two people in the car. There's the monkey mind and the conscious mind. And most people, the monkey mind's driving the car. And the goal is to get the monkey mind in the back seat, and you take over the driver's seat. You're in full enlightenment when you're running the show, and you're not allowing all of these behavioral patterns and primal behaviors ingrained into this body to run the car. It seems kind of reckless to have a monkey driving the car in the first place, but it'd be much better to have a conscious, eternal being driving the car, I think. So that's what happened to me. That's what I believe the ego is. And in summary, I had my first mini awakening. I had a full, complete awakening for 3 days. And then I had a soul boot camp, which lasted several weeks. And I'm going to go through, I'll go through all of that in much more detail later. But I want to start describing what I think this game, this play, this matrix, this illusion is, and I can give you some concrete steps to try and make this a little bit easier. I think so how do I describe this? If you're to follow suggestions that I give, you will have a much easier time of having your own spontaneous awakening. That's a long story that goes into vibration, but I believe I can help people have a much better chance of getting there. There's a lot of things in our environment and our behaviors and our diets that make it nearly impossible for us to even get this glimpse. Where our brains and our bodies are so full of chemicals and mind pollution in the form of social media, and it's all designed to keep us from awakening, in my opinion. So what I'm going to try to do is outline practical, tangible steps that will lead you to get where I am now. And I'm certain that I'm going to continue down this path, and I'm excited for what the future brings. I have near complete peace all the time now, but it's still not back to the 3-day awakened state. So I'm excited because I know it's coming, and it keeps, every day just gets a little bit better. So if you're like me and you understand what the ego is, and you want to have some tools for your toolbox that maybe you can apply to your life and see if it helps you, then follow along, and we'll see what we can do. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. We're at 17 minutes, and I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter. So we're going to I'm not sure what tomorrow will be, but I suspect it might be like something to do with the nature of the universe and reality itself, which is going to be a tough one to keep the 15 minutes. But anyway, I hope this finds you well. Love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.